Well, I'm Michał Zygmunt. I'm a musician and artist. I live and I create on the Oder River, which flows on the border of three nations. It's a beautiful river, transformed following changes, but it still has a huge potential. So, as a musician, as an artist and composer, a guitarist, a music creator, and a program creator, a person like that, what can you do on the river? Well, I was born here and I've lived here all my life with um, short breaks, but I've lived in different places. And to me, it's a river of my childhood and then adulthood. And I found out that our connection between me and the river is so much more, because it became my totem, a flag, my artistic inspiration. But because I'm on the river, I came across people who showed me the different faces of the river. And because one of the things I do is I record the sounds of nature. I use specialist microphones and I listen to sounds in different places. And then I create professional recordings of nature. So that's another thing, another area that I listen to very carefully and deeply throughout my different artistic projects. They are audio projects, most of them artistic projects, although I've had some educational projects. I have my thoughts about this, and I am an artist, but I'm turning activist more and more. The changes I see, because I have such close encounters with the river. So this is why I'm becoming an activist, someone who wants to be engaged. But I'm also an artist, and I use different forms of expression and different tools, and I create situations as well. And for a few years now, I've wanted rivers to become fashionable. I want to encourage people to take a closer look at the river and watch it and learn. If we can turn it into a value that can be shared by everyone, and if we are no longer just experts, and instead we will reach out to the people to tell them about the river, then we may very well get followers or enthusiasts, and we could join forces and fight for our cause. At some point, I realized that putting on the hat of an ecologist, a green person, it's not in sync with me. I don't feel good about this. I'm an artist, and the power that I have is to create a myth, a legend, or perhaps a fashion. And it's not just me in Poland. There are several or more than 10 people like me. We have Cecilia Malik. She's a painter. She's in Krakow on the Vistula River. She's a really powerful person. She has an organization called Sisters of the River. This is an important organization that brings together people not for knowledge, not just for professional purposes or as experts. So her organization encourages a different take on the river. And that's what I'm trying to do as well, but I use different means of expression. I use sound and audio to show the beauty of the river. I don't want to scare people. I want to give names to what we see and make people feel and sense these things. Because over the years, we've learned from science the things we need to do. However, no one's listening to the scientists. The public don't want to know, and the public don't want to listen to environmentalists either. And yes, the world is changing, but it's not changing fast enough. I suppose it's the right time. We're talking about the future, and we're talking about natural heritage, and the rivers are clearly an important part of our heritage. And this could very well be the direction for the future. And maybe it's now in the hands of artists to make people curious, to get them interested. I do it using different ways. I use microphones to record sounds of nature, but not just nature. I use different sounds. I then use it in my music, and I prepare audio programs. It's about listening. And I listen to the river, and I listen to the different sounds of the river. I then put out albums. One such album includes sounds played by nature as I recorded it. These recordings are probably not important scientifically, but it's more like music. But it's not music made by people, it's music made by nature. It's not edited. These are like audio landscapes. I have a few albums like that to my name. I have some records where the sounds of the river provide a pretext to create music. Or in fact, they are music as such. It's not always about relaxing sounds. Some of the projects were listened to in the mass media as well, not just in Poland, in Europe as well. So it's like an artistic game with artistic projects. For example, the Odra guitars. This is a project that I've authored, and together with craftsmen from Lower Silesia in Poland. This is a region where I live. So Odra Guitars is a project that I developed where we use guitars built from timber from trees that grow on the banks of the river. And I invited guitar makers, craftsmen, but it's also about sourcing the material locally with the focus on locality. I remember I was in the West in a music shop, and the shop assistant was presenting a very expensive guitar to me. And he said, what makes this guitar so powerful is because it's made of trees that grow in the east of Europe. And I thought, this is where I come from. And then I went to a music shop in Poland, and the shop assistant shows me that guitar, and he says, this guitar was made of trees that grow in America, far away, and that's what makes it such a great instrument. Well, through my project, I wanted to take this spell off this idea. It's about building simple instruments with craftsmen. What's important, these instruments were not amateur. It's not about, using little money to produce this. They are really professional instruments. And I used those guitars playing with international bands. And some of our pieces were really very successful. So I built some of the instruments. Some are still being built. But we also used simple methods to build these instruments, like using simple boxes. It will only take you 3 days to build this with just 4 strings. They are very easy to play. When you look at the river and the potential it has, you can try and look away. But at the end of the day, it's all about the river. I'm going to show you a video. I'll send you a link where you can see how those instruments are built. It was 7 years ago, but people still keep inviting me to talk about this. I don't make these guitars, others do it. And I send the designs to different places in Europe. And everyone who gets in touch with me, I try to encourage them to build their own guitar, just like I did. Because it's so inspiring, and it's a distraction, in fact, because these stories are very difficult to tell. I collected fairy tales and legends connected to the river, and I used them to build programs, audio programs. I would have excellent actors playing the parts. We have sounds and the music of the river, and this is becoming part of the river world through sounds, with culture and imagination leading the way. And we also have recordings that we take out there by the river. This is something I've been doing for more than a year, but it still feels like I've only just begun. And the project I'm referring to is titled The Sound Trail of the Oder. We begin from the spring in the Czech Republic all the way to the estuary. I wanted to set up a system of wooden lenses or audio benches, wooden structures to be placed where you can listen to beautiful concerts of nature. And then using a very simple principle of physics, which is concentration of acoustic waves, it's a great place to go to as a group or with your family. Take a seat on a bench like this, and then all year long, you can come there and listen to the sounds of nature. Close your eyes, relax, and listen. It's based on very simple principles of physics, which is wave concentration. We developed this project with Manfred, who's an inventor, and I came across him on the banks of the Oder River for a few years now. We've been neighbors because I moved from the city to the river, to the riverside. I was looking for ways to share the sounds with other people because obviously I'm there and I can listen to the sounds directly. And I was thinking about ways to pass those sounds on to people who can't be there. And so I joined forces with him. And the stage we're at right now is together with a local organization. It's called Łęki Odrzańskie, which are the last riparian forests in Europe. And so everything seems to go as it did historically. So we are now building these sound benches. The first few pieces will be mobile. I'll be taking them to different places and deploying them there. But ultimately, we want to have stationary benches, fixed benches, like you have shelters where people can do barbecue. I want more. I want people to get out of their cars and take a walk to the riverbanks, to the riparian forests, where real nature is. And these places are just, they're waiting for them. I want them to take a seat on a bench like this and listen to nature. I'm going to paste in a visualization of these audio benches. I hope to be able to invite you on a journey with me soon. Not an easy thing to do, to go through a project like this. First, you have to find the partners. Plus, I'm an artist. I'm an independent artist, and this is how I make my living. So I have to look for different sources. What I can do is attract attention, people's attention. There are different goals I want to achieve. I really want to be an artist and not pretend that I'm wearing the hat of an environmentalist, for example. I'm a composer and I record sounds, but I'm also trying to get people together and integrate the different communities. There are so many of them, so many local communities in the villages. There's so much going on here. And the river is such a great channel and medium to connect people. And that's the way to communicate between villages that are like 20 or 30 kilometers apart. There's a project called the Ship of Culture. It's in fact a barge, a residential barge. It's been in operation for more than 10 years. And what it does is it takes high culture to smaller villages. That's how it helps to build culture. I suppose this is what will make the rivers strong. It won't be guys in suits who use an official language. I think we can do a better job than them. So we've been doing this for some years now. And we're thinking about applying for a project and then build a folks river university. So we have real plans. We have great people who can talk about the future, and we have the know-how from local partners. We have ports, and hopefully in 20 years from now, we'll be there on the riverbanks having a crowd of people behind us, and these people will not allow the river to be hurt. Well, we have to do it. I mean, the Oder has been partly transformed, and there are temptations now to keep destroying it or use it irresponsibly. So this is very much a strong intention there. It could happen anytime, and I get a sense that what we're doing now is like money from the flood fund is being used for all the wrong reasons. I don't think the local communities are strong enough to oppose to that, or they simply are not interested. So it's now time for artists and creators of culture. I am now becoming an activist or learning to be one. By submerging myself in the river, I feel I'm wiser, and it's changed my view on things, on the future. You just need to go there, spend some time by the river. So as I said, it's the audio trail of the Oder River. I'll come back to that in a moment.
And I'm trying to, this performance to be in several steps. I wanted to publish a CD like the Other Fruit. Now it has been ready. People have been listening to the sounds, which I recorded with no musical instrument at all. And I made it within a 6-month trip on the river. I used all the palettes of sounds and different techniques of recording to be able to show the beauty of the river. And also my project was made together with a state institution, with shipyards, and with the Świnoujście port. And the policy is quite different. They want to industrialize the river much more. And it was because of the Szczecin's concert hall. We were standing on different sides, but I was interested in doing it as they are doing it. And when we meet in media only or barricades, then we will say nothing important to each other. So to me, an artist, it's a great opportunity to meet people who express the will to promote the project. And also I wanted to reach people who may decide about the future of the river. So maybe I will have the opportunity to tell them how my community looks at the things. People who work in the riparian forest, but we are not. But this is not perceived as water storage, but more like it's a ready solution to all our issues. So I felt when I enter a long-term project, which will be concluded by a CD, then my voice would sound clearly. And also we made several minor projects with water supply to my forest. And I wanted to do it with their support because they should make an attempt to make some small changes, small projects. We have right to check the institutions, I believed, whether they do lobby things. They are state institutions such as ports. And making my CD, while we were trying to evoke discussion and not just to make lobbying, which is why we wanted to have the meeting. They would be more reluctant to have the meeting with environmental organizations, but when they were to meet just an artist, it was easy. So we managed to reach many people, and my CD with river sound, it's very popular among people who are not connected with us, but they are ordinary users. And maybe thus they will learn about everything, looking for solutions to reach us and get support to everything that we are discussing about and which will be decisive for our future. So I believe what I said in the beginning of the meeting. I think that now it's time for the artists who are a bit like wizards who open up the future. There is one metaphoric legend. When white people arrived in the big boats to the New World, when to the continent of America, then the Native Americans, they couldn't see, they couldn't notice the big ships as they didn't have the perception to do it. And they were standing on the beach and didn't see anything. And again, it's about the wizards who made some spectacles, performances, and then they could see something like an unidentified vehicle, as they were way beyond their scope of perception. So sometimes it takes a theater, sometimes it takes a process, a performance to initiate our thinking. Sometimes it takes a mystery in the world full of images. Well, sound is what is the most important. I talk to people when they have their eyes closed, and this archaic way of watching is appealing to many as there is a mystery in it. Well, now we have access to everything on the internet, but the taste is less great. So we are the artists, wizards, people who take us to the future. We are talking now, and the world of future is our future. The environmental collapse is in progress now. Whether we want it or not, we have to change priorities. We have to reset the priorities to be able to do things. And then we need the knowledge. And then there should be need for the knowledge. So we need to get interested. The system that is not responsive to it, which is why artists are great tools. You know Warsaw, have seen Warsaw, the big Polish city, and its relation to the river. You must have seen a process. Warsaw 20 years ago was turned its back to the river, but we had Czerniakowski Park where the artists met with independent theaters, where now and then things were happening who were making the culture, not activism, really. And there we had a space for all of a sudden for everybody because it was interesting, it was intriguing and exciting. Now we see it in Krakow, a group connected with the sisters of Vistula, Eva, Bartolomeo, Cecily. They're building this community. I saw people who are coming there because they know then the pulse of independence is there. It's the place worthwhile being. For some time, I've been trying to build it up in on Oder in Wrocław, which, in spite of its impressive river heritage, cannot notice it. And now it's time for me, for my role, for people who try to be active. Well, I'm telling you about the world of artists, but there are many ways to open the eyes. Nature, photographers, they also show everything, and also in other places, as well as in an ordinary activism, in building up civic societies, in building up communities, associations, foundations. When we take our trip on the ship of culture, we try to reach small associations in remote places away from big cities. They have an issue with providing good offer for people who are sensitive for thinking. There are people who believe us, and we need to reach them. Well, this is how I see the role of artists, those who can open up their eyes. And my way is an example of that. I'm a musician who, by coincidence and by curiosity, decided to spend my time recording nature instead of sitting in a studio. It makes me a completely different person, and my art is completely different. If I were to sum up or to define what is driver for my success, is the awareness in looking back and in understanding where the stream would flow, and that you should not fight back the stream, the flow. I'm thinking about the river of life. we need to look around us and look at where we live and notice what is most important and try to get your inspiration, joy to be here and now and not anywhere else. So I will send you all the links to my stories. So you will find much more of it in the internet. Should you have any question, I will be happy to answer them. It will be easier for me to express my thoughts in Polish. To begin with, thank you very much. It's the zone which the experts tend to forget the perception of nature on completely different frequencies. But I think, Michał, I should tell you something. Well, there is a saying that children and fish, they have no voice, but it's wrong. The rivers and nature, they have a lot of sounds which we have no idea about. We are unable to understand it and see it. But what's interesting, when we intervene into the song of the river, and you remember there was this research in Switzerland, it is proven that the sound of turbines into lakes, they changed the migration of trout spawners. So nothing changed, just the sound. And this sound technician, he explained to them that the song of river changed, and that's why the fish went crazy. And it's important because we keep saying we are close to the global day of fish migration. We said a lot about rivers. Maybe with Michał now, we remember that the river valleys, these are routes of migration of many other groups. Those are signposts for huge migrations, and our other river is the second route of migration between Arctica and Africa. We must not forget by killing the river, putting into the channels, we will get deprived of listening to the music as Michał now has presented. Thank you, Michał. Thank you so much.